Welcome back to DIY Boomers. Today we'll take a look at how we went about making the doors for our bathroom vanity that we're building. This basic shaker style tongue and groove door consists of 4 2¼ by 3/4 inch red oak frame pieces and a 1/4 inch red oak veneer center panel. The 2 vertical side pieces on door construction are called stiles, while the horizontal top and bottom pieces are called rails. The height and the width of these doors needed to be exact in our design, since we chose to build inset doors, which means that they install flush with the face frame opening with a uniform gap between the doors and the face frame opening. In contrast, overlay style doors don't need to be so exact as they overlap the face frame opening as shown here. Keep in mind that while the stiles are cut to the exact height of the door, the width of the rails need to include the additional width of the tongue or tenon on both sides of the rail. Cutting the tongue and groove can be done on a router table, but I found it better to be cut on the table saw as the red oak chipped and splintered a bit when I tried it with my router blade. Using your miter gauge in a zero clearance table insert allows you to cut small fractions off the frame of your door if it isn't fitting perfectly. As you see here, the door aligns exactly parallel with the cut in the insert. So for example, if you needed to trim 1/16 of an inch off the bottom right side of this door and angled to nothing trimmed off at the top, you would lower your blade below the table and adjust the miter gauge so that at the top right edge of the door is even with the cut line, and the bottom right edge shows a 1/16 inch cut as you slide the door and miter gauge up. This is one instance where the exact cut line of the zero clearance table insert comes in handy. A cheap and easy upgrade to your miter gauge is essential for making tongue and groove cuts on your table saw. Lengthen your fence by attaching a straight piece of scrap wood to your miter gauge with 2 screws. Extend it out just past the saw blade. The kerf line cut on the extension is an exact way to make measurements. Here I'm measuring and cutting a piece of scrap to the exact length of the stiles. Then clamping a stop block to the fence to ensure making repeatable and exact cuts. Cut the remaining stiles, then move the stop block to cut your rails. Another benefit of the wooden extension at the kerf line cut is that it eliminates tear out due to the backing that it provides. Now to cut the grooves, set the blade height for the depth of the groove. I'm setting it to 3/8 of an inch. Using a scrap piece of wood from your door assembly, mark the center of that piece and make the first groove cut near the center. It doesn't need to be exactly in the center. Turn it end for end and make a second cut. This ensures a centered groove. Check the width of the groove on the laminate that you'll be using for the door panels. For our 1/4 inch panels, which measure slightly less than a 1/4 inch, we needed to make the groove slightly wider. Keep in mind now that widening the groove will require 2 cuts again, one on each side, to keep the groove evenly centered. So you need to move your fence only half the extra width that is needed because of the 2 cuts. And it's always better to measure a little shorter than needed so that you don't cut off too much. And that's why it's important to get set up using scrap pieces. Once you get the groove to fit snug but not too tight, you can then start cutting grooves in all of your stiles and rails. Next, we're going to set the blade height for cutting the tongues, or tenons. Set the blade height just below the bottom of the groove height. Again, with a piece of scrap, make a mark equal to the depth of the groove from the end of the test piece. Then, clamp a block on your fence and lock the fence down so that the edge of the block is set to the width of the tongue away from the cut line on your test piece. When you get the snug but not too tight fit on the tongue and groove, go ahead and make all your tongue and groove cuts on your rails. Now, test fit your pieces together. Mark the door numbers for reference in case any adjustments need to be made, and check that the door frames are square. Another way to check the frames for square is to measure diagonally corner to corner on both diagonals. If the measurements are the same, the door frame is square. When cutting your door panels, cut them 1/4 of an inch less than the assembled groove depth in both height and width. This provides a 1/8 inch gap between the panel and the groove all the way around the frame, which allows room for expansion and contraction. It's a good idea to sand a slight bevel on the edges of the panels to avoid splintering the edges of the panels during assembly. There are differing opinions when it comes to gluing the doors together. Some say that you shouldn't glue the panels in the grooves due to the expansion and contraction. Others say that veneers are not susceptible to that, and that on smaller dimensions of solid wood makes any movement pretty negligible. That being the case, we decided to go ahead and apply glue to the panels. We figured that would eliminate the possibility of any rattling and also keep the edge of the stain line from shifting around. And finally, you want to keep checking for square during the gluing and the clamping process. So that's pretty much it for getting the inset doors made for our vanity that we're building in our bathroom remodel. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Check out the progress of our vanity build along with the rest of our bathroom remodel and other content on DIY Boomers. See you next time.